Hello there, and welcome to The High Ground, a Doof bonus content show where we're bringing life back into the Jurassic Park franchise. I'm your Tyrannosaurus host, Reuben Morehouse.
I'm your Velociraptor host, Elliot Diebold.
And I'm your Compsognathus host, Georgia Diebold.
Can we just... Velociraptor. Is that how you say it? Because I always say Velociraptor. Like, you hit the I pretty hard, Elliot.
I thought it was Velociraptor.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you all seem like you know more about dinosaurs than me, so...
I mean, we're just going to have to Google how to
I've never
pronounce.
thought about this. Well, no, I'm going to listen for it in the next movie.
Mm.
We'll let movie 6 determine
But
for
we
us.
only talk about the Indoraptor now.
yeah, it's pronounced Indoraptor.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's actually said Indoraptor.
Had a nice gold streak. Was that, do you think, part of the design or just an accident? Because they're like, let's give it a gold streak too.
It was cool.
Yeah, Henry was like, I'm putting a racing stripe on my new dinosaur.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to start talking about this one's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, it's the middle of the Jurassic World trilogy.
Yeah.
I don't like it. This is, in my opinion, the worst movie in the entire franchise. I hate bringing negative energy to these things, but
the slight positive energy I'll bring is to say that it definitely got better as it went on. Like, I thought it started off a lot worse, and then about halfway through I was like, okay, yeah, like this is getting better. Like, the start was particularly bad. I'm
gonna play devil's advocate here for a bit and say, and do I believe this? Maybe. All the previous movies, I felt like they were just trying to be Jurassic Park and not as good. Whereas this movie is very ridiculous, but in a way where it's not even really trying to be a Jurassic Park movie. Like, the concept of a theme park with dinosaurs is not at all present in this movie, right? Like, it's just not.
That's and I kind of there's some more originality in this one.
Yeah, I kind of liked that. Like, it obviously wasn't a good movie, but it also wasn't just a worse version of Jurassic Park 1, which feels like every single other movie that we've watched so far in this series has been. So yeah, I'm kind of like, it at least was weird and different, which I did like. Yeah.
See, that's interesting, because I would have said, I agree, Jurassic World, like the one we did last time, the fourth one, is just a shitty wannabe of the first one. Yes. But at least there was more fun in its ridiculousness. Like, this one pisses me off because I think it doesn't have that same fun. And like, I'm like, Jurassic Park 3 is another one where like that movie's dumb, but it's fun. Whereas 1 and 2 are the ones where they're less fun at times, but they're good enough to hold it. This is the one that feels to me like it tries to be more serious, but doesn't have the chops to be serious, and also does the seriousness at the cost of the fun, which is, at least when the other ones are stupid, they're fun. I don't know.
I guess I agree with that. I think there are definitely some fun moments. Like, this movie has a scene where Chris Pratt is running away from lava amongst a bunch of dinosaurs, which is kind of fun. It's got a scene where a dinosaur kills a bunch of capitalists, which is fun. I don't know, like, it's not.
No, 100%. I guess just the fun to stupid ratio is worse in this one than the others, I guess, is how I feel.
Yeah,
I think
that's fair.
That this is a worse movie than Jurassic World. Like, objectively, this is a worse movie. But I see what Reuben is saying. It's like, it's nice to not have, like, to have something that's a little bit different. I guess maybe because we're watching them all in a row.
I can't help.
Yeah, but it's true. I think there were some ideas that were explored, especially in the second half of this movie, that were like pretty cool. And then, of course, they maybe didn't really do them justice.
Tried,
like,
at least.
You know, the idea of them, like the black market dinosaurs and stuff, I actually thought was really cool.
I mean,
it wasn't executed super great, but
we'll get to that,
there was
I guess.
But and like, I think Elliot and I said that, and I think this is a really crux of the movie, that when we finished watching it, we're like, there was a lot of kind of cool ideas here. None of them were explored very well, and none of them were really related or linked at all. Like they just sort of like touched on a few sort of interesting ideas, did nothing with it, zero connection. It was like a bit weird.
Yeah, like we'll get to them when we get to them, I think, because I've chucked them in the notes where I thought they covered. But yeah, I fully agree. This movie is just, I think what kind of annoys me about it is, you get to the end and you're like, well, that was a mess. I don't really know what that movie wanted to be.
Whereas like half-baked. It feels like like they hadn't really finished deciding exactly what they wanted to do, but then suddenly they were filming and they're like, I don't know.
Just and then they realized halfway through making a movie that it wasn't going to work and pivoted to another movie halfway through.
Yeah.
Because like Jurassic World, and I think I made this comparison when we talked about it last time. It reminds me of Star Wars Episode 7, where it's just trying to do the original one, but in a shitty 21st century big budget way. And I can at least respect that for being fun. Whereas, this movie's almost it's weird because you're right. It should get credit for, unlike Jurassic World 1, this movie is actually trying to do something interesting. It's just the execution is so wanting.
Yeah, exactly. Like they didn't land it, but I can appreciate that it is something a bit different, which is kind of a good idea.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about it and we'll go through it. So first off, we open with people going to Dinosaur Island and still somehow not expecting that they're going to be attacked by a bunch of dinosaurs.
I especially love the choice to open on this submarine shot, not just because I'm obsessed with underwater stuff, but so much of Jurassic World was that, I don't even remember the name of it, but the giant fish carnivore that ate the Indominus Rex, like,
and the assistant who just gets like brutally murdered in that movie, really unfairly. I think
I forgot about her. Yeah. But that was kind of the biggest badass of the previous movie. So just opening with the submarine, I was kind of instantly like, oh fuck, here we go, big boys back.
I like that because remember, all of the first 3 Jurassic Park films started off with a similar scene of like, non-main characters getting attacked by dinosaurs essentially in some way. And then Jurassic World didn't, and it was one of the things we commented on. We were like,
about that.
It had like a really mundane start. It started off with the kids and something really boring.
There was a shot of a dinosaur egg hatching. I remember that was
because
we were like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, we were like, this is really weird. So I kind of really liked going back to a more classic Jurassic Park opening with a bunch of randos getting attacked by a cool dinosaur. Like that's just how you got to start these movies. It's a great way to start.
And I think it was a great scene. Like the lightning flashes revealing the T-Rex slowly approaching the guy was very fun. The bit where it then grabs onto the ladder and is like pulling on the helicopter. Complete nonsense, but very fun.
You forgot the bit where then he gets away and they're all cheering, and then the big aquatic dino comes up and eats us. It's so funny.
Very silly.
Great.
Yeah.
Great scene.
But it is also that it's just one of those things where it's like, as you said at the top, Reuben, how did they not plan for this? Like,
because it's clear that they know, like they're here to get something. They know it's Jurassic Park. They know that there's dinosaurs here, like, and they're just like so unprepared. Completely unprepared.
One guy goes to they're sitting in the front of the submarine and one guy's looking really nervous and the other guy goes, don't worry, they're all dead. And it's like, oh yeah, well they're clearly not.
They're not. There's a whole plot point about how everyone in the world is protesting the fact that they're not dead yet. Like what?
Yeah,
I think he was talking about the big boy in the water.
I
think it's reasonable to expect the big boy in the water to have died. I do actually have questions about what he's been surviving on.
That's fair.
He's
got a pretty good leap. He can probably catch birds and shit.
Reptiles last a long time without food or something. Is that a thing?
I'm not a Scientologist. I don't know. Like I guess I'm more leveling this criticism at the dickheads who got eaten by the T-Rex. Like the guy was a bit like he's like over there and just kind of unprotected. And was like, well, yeah, what did you think was going to happen? You're on Dinosaur Island. Like, every time somebody comes here, they get ate. Like,
anyway. Get ate.
Yeah, they're real idiots. I mean, again, it's just like, Jurassic World is just a story of pure incompetence over and over again.
Yeah.
I kind of want to open my own Jurassic World theme park just so I can prove that it's actually probably not that dangerous if you're not a fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, it's like, there's a bit later on where they get out of this prison by using a dinosaur that can knock down the brick wall. And I think I wrote in my notes as that part happened, I was like, this entire franchise could just be fixed by people learning how to lock up dinosaurs properly. Like, literally, the crux of almost every movie in this franchise has been people cutting corners on locking up dinosaurs and suffering from it. It's like, at a certain point, you have to learn the lesson.
Like, somebody just needs to invent really good fencing in this world and become, I don't know, very rich, maybe?
The CEO of InGen for having a great idea like that.
Okay, so lizards eat approximately every 2 to 3 days. So, and they're very active with a higher metabolism than snakes. So there are other reptiles that have lower metabolisms that eat less often.
What about crocodiles? I feel like this thing would be closer to a crocodile.
Yeah.
Oh, well, not many people have pet crocodiles, so that info is going to be a little bit harder to come across.
That's fair. But also, yeah, I'd be willing to believe that boy could hibernate.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking if he's really, like, big and old, that maybe he just really doesn't need to eat just once a decade. Maybe it's fine. He had that personal assistant. He doesn't need to eat. And the Indominus Rex.
Yeah, he snacked on that for months,
like
actually.
A decade.
Anyway, sorry, where were we?
Well, Ian Malcolm's back, and they almost trick you into thinking that he's going to be in the whole movie, but he's not. He's just here for one scene. Goldblum here to get a paycheck and fuck off, which fair enough. But his whole argument is how the dinosaurs should die out because they weren't meant to have been made, and also genetic engineering is bad and is going to change the world, so the dinosaurs should be left to.
Yeah, and I don't understand the link between those two statements that he makes, right? Like,
I guess the link is meant to be, we never should have done it, so let's just let nature clean up our mistake. But, like, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense.
I do like the contrast of having, like, again, this is like one of those quite interesting ideas that they sort of half-baked looked at, like the idea of, whether these animals have any rights. But they kind of split. I mean, you've got Ian Malcolm, who you like because he was in the first series, and you hear him say, no, we should let them die. And you think, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But then they have like Bryce Dallas Howard and her weird little startup group, which I kind of hated. I just really hated that whole thing. But sort of fighting. And you sort of see where they're coming from too. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, these creatures exist and they have feelings, like, regardless of how they came to be. Like, I don't really find myself picking a side, which generally speaking means that something like that has been done well. Like, when you're actually sitting there as an audience member thinking, I don't know which of these sides is right, or like, I don't know, like, I could see both points of view. I thought that was a really interesting like plot point to bring in that didn't quite
they didn't just
get explored as deeply as it could have. Like, if that had been the plot of the whole film, it could have been really interesting to explore, like, what makes a creature have the right to life. And the other thing was, like, the government, because I think this is what Malcolm was testifying for, presumably, was whether the government should step in, and they said no, which I have to say I really agreed with. I was like, the debate as to whether or not it is ethical to save these dinosaurs is one thing. The government should clearly not be doing it. Like,
yes,
these are privately
100%.
created, privately owned animals. Like, obviously it needs to be a private venture. Like, and Bryce Dallas Howard is like, nobody cares. It's like, well, no, but the government can't. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. Does the US government get involved in conservation efforts to this extent, or is that, like, how does that work? Because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, the jurisdiction here is what doesn't make sense to me, because these islands are constantly told that they're off the Costa Rican coast.
They're not in the US. They're privately owned, right?
Yeah.
But then, so, like, what's stopping anyone from coming and taking these dinosaurs in that case?
Just the fact that they're dangerous,
Logistics.
I think. Yeah.
Sure. No, but okay, but I'm just saying, I got the impression that this whole rescue operation that they're about to go on in the movie was like a big kind of not sanctioned by the US government thing, and they kind of made a big deal out of that. And I was just there like, who gives a fuck what the US government thinks? I guess they're planning on bringing them back to the US, which is where it does become the US government's problem.
That's definitely.
But it's like if they were just picking them up and moving them to a different island or giving them to another government, like at that point, I'm like, I don't see why the US government has any jurisdiction in this at all.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair, but I feel like that's a lot of Hollywood things. Is like America's the boss of the world. Like, well, America has to decide this, and it's like sitting here as an Australian, I'm like, why on earth would they ever get involved? That's crazy talk.
Especially because the US military was all over Jurassic World 1 because they wanted the weaponized dinosaurs. So maybe there's some agreement that's a part of that is why the US technically has jurisdiction here.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, how much time did Bryce Dallas Howard waste trying to convince like senators to back this thing when she should have just been looking for some crazy rich person to go save a bunch of dinosaurs? That sounds way more likely.
Well, definitely, given that's actually what ends up happening. Yeah. How much do you think she spent on staff? Like, surely she could just go and grab a few. What are the little chompy ones? Is that the Compsognathus?
Yeah.
Compsognathus?
Well, Reuben, she did hire that one lady who is a doctor. She can't be on phone calls to people.
Is she a doctor?
I was like, God, I hate
Is she a vet? What's her vibe? Do you think?
She said I assume she was some kind of PhD in dinosaurs.
Oh, I see. Right. She's got a PhD.
They kept it nice and vague.
Surgical. Anyway, whatever.
That is true.
It's Hollywood.
Yeah, well, it's like she's
a scientist.
And she pulled these like surgical instruments out of her ass at one point. I was like, where the fuck did she get any of this stuff to perform this operation?
She's a serial killer. That's probably the best explanation.
The best bit was where she pulled out, maybe I'm being nitpicky because this is like what I do, but she like pulled out the bullet and then goes, he's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. It's like,
that's how it goes, isn't it?
Anything. You just pulled the bullet out. You didn't prepare anything or wash out anything. You just pulled out the bullet.
Okay. So this
was it poison?
Pretty straightforward. No. See, so the bullet went in, right? And that displaces all the organs. Yeah. But then as you pull it out, they all just like lock back into place.
No, you actually don't need sutures. It just
it didn't tear anything. It just moved them out of place.
Yeah. Okay.
The bullet going in is what caused the damage, so taking the bullet out fixes the damage. It's basic stuff.
It's like, I don't think I have to be a surgeon to realize that this doesn't make any sense.
She'll stitch it up or something. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, she's going to be okay, but you haven't done anything yet.
Hey, it's still crazy to me how little bullets work on dinosaurs. They shouldn't work, right? Like, bullets should work on dinosaurs.
They're pretty destructive. Like,
do they work on rhinos?
I mean,
is that not exactly what poaching is?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Is poaching a huge thing?
Yeah, but don't they like, I don't know.
Use bazookas? No. I think they use normal guns.
I know, but they have like, I don't know. Okay. Well, even if they had special guns, the dinosaur people should be using them. But no, I don't know. Doesn't it take like 10 bullets to kill a rhino or something? I don't know.
I think just one well-aimed bullet would kill anything.
Yeah, I'm going to get myself put on a list by Googling.
All right, how many shots from a pistol would it take to take down a rhino is what I've Googled.
Rhinoceros.
This is a question on Quora. How many shots from a pistol would it take to take down a rhino? Yeah. Okay, wow. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so it seems like your basic pistol that you get, off the street in America is probably not going to do it. A specialized weapon definitely could.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I mean, I don't know anything about guns, but like a shitty little like handgun type thing that people keep in their drawers in America to kill their children or whatever. Like, obviously not. But there's got to be like weapons that 100%.
Oh yeah, there are rifles that hunt big game.
Hunting rifle, right?
Yeah, and you have to assume
no problem,
people are going to Dinosaur Island with the sorts of at least the sorts of rifles that they'd use to
use for big game hunting, for sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
instead they fire off like 100 rounds of some automatic weapon, and the dinosaur's just like, "Urgh," and it's like,
I guess it's because they've got good,
I mean,
like,
the Indoraptor
frog
you
DNA.
can, yeah. Well, the Indoraptor you can make an argument for maybe it's been genetically
Genetically,
engineered to be
yeah.
somehow sort of bulletproof. The
Bulletproof.
rest
Yeah,
of them,
that makes sense.
bullets didn't even exist. There's no way they evolved to be bulletproof.
But there are all
like-
those meteors falling down all the time.
there were all those volcano eruptions happening all the
ballistics. Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah, to be sure that's
So,
dinosaur times.
speaking of going to a billionaire to fund this adventure, that's exactly what happens. Claire gets called to a billionaire who wants to save the dinos. And is this guy somebody? Who is this guy? He's like clearly a fake John Hammond that
It's
like
such a huge retcon. They're like, oh, and also
Yeah.
this guy started Jurassic Park with
Oh
John
yeah,
Hammond.
this
Oh,
is
did
John
we-
Hammond's
oh,
best friend,
oh.
business partner.
Oh,
He's
did we
basically
forget to mention that before? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he just
did
has
we
never
not
come
mention
up
him in the
before.
previous 4 movies, including the previous movie that we made, retconning a bunch of stuff about Jurassic Park?
Our bad. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Whoops.
Forgot to mention him.
Yeah, I think like I'm seeing you googled this as well. Richard Hammond, the guy who played it, sorry, Richard Attenborough, the guy who played John Hammond, passed away like as they were making the first movie. So I have to assume it was just like, oh, we can't get John Hammond back. We'll get this other guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't mind the whole thing but I think retconning that he totally started Jurassic Park with John Hammond was like a bit
Silly.
maybe unnecessary and just made it like it was obviously shoehorned in.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
you could have just made him like not really related to Jurassic Park at all, except he just wants to save the dinosaurs. He could have just
What-
been some cloning guy who was
Yeah.
like sort of separate-ish.
I think that the problem is like there's meant to be this thing where it was like, oh, there was a schism between Hammond and Lockwood at some point, and it comes down to this like daughter who we'll get
Mhm.
to.
You mean granddaughter?
Well, sure, yeah.
Well,
Spoilers. But like I don't know, that whole thing didn't really land because then it was like, yeah, I don't know. It was like he was meant to have been close enough to Jurassic Park to really care about it here and want to do all this, but I don't know. The relationship just didn't work because it was like, oh, he's super close, but also they had a falling out. And it
well,
was
again,
like,
it was
okay,
sort of
yeah, I
again,
don't
it
know.
was like half baked. It was like
Yeah.
this thing that if it had been, you could have shoehorned it in if you did it properly, and it would have been like forgivable. But because they just kind of half-assed it, it just felt weird and out of place.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it's because Lockwood has no motivation in this movie aside from just one. Like he's like textually he wants to slot in and be the sort of person Hammond would want him to be here.
Yes.
He's like
yes.
he's like trying to preserve Hammond's legacy, and maybe that's part of the problem. Is it's like this old guy gets introduced as like, oh, he was just off screen the whole time, and he has no motivation except for wanting to do what Hammond would have done here. And it's like if they maybe given him a bit more of his own character, it would have felt less silly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the other problem with it is the movie kind of wants us to give a shit about him,
Yeah,
and it doesn't like give him enough time because he's only got like 3 or 4 scenes before he's spoiler
Yeah,
alert,
again, they don't
murdered,
sort of
right?
characterize him enough for us to give a shit.
Like if that was John Hammond, we would care, but you can't just sub somebody in and say, now pretend, but just squint a bit when he's on screen. Like it's not going to work.
Do you just pretend like you care about this character real quick? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Like,
if
no.
he'd been in the first one, like this would be so much of an easier sell. And honestly, the idea of like John Hammond's old business partner after he's died trying to recreate what he did would have worked for the first one too. So like,
Oh, totally, yeah.
yeah.
That would have been good.
Anyway,
They could have
Mhm.
retconned that in too.
yeah, they should have made it here in Jurassic World. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so in order to save Blue, they're going to need somebody with expertise in talking to Blue. And that's Owen. He's back, building himself a lovely rustic cabin. A really professional rustic cabin, can I
And
just
he's
say?
singing while he does it.
No, but it's so funny.
Obviously.
It's like just out in the middle of nowhere, but it's not a log cabin because it's all like professional building supplies. It's a really odd vibe that this cabin scene has because it looks like he's building a very modern building while he's out in the middle of nowhere by himself. Like, I don't know.
And there's logs. There's logs next to him. There's both like chop down logs on the left, and then on the right, a bunch of processed like 2x4s or whatever. And it's just like, well, he couldn't have turned those into those. That doesn't make any sense. But clearly, that's what he's done.
I don't know how wood works. He has a pile of wood and he's building a cabin.
It's very funny. It just is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, just the whole vibe of like. Eventually it makes sense, but I just thought it was so funny that they took Claire to this billionaire's house and this guy's like, man, we really need you because you know the park and we need your fingerprint, but also you know Chris Pratt and he's the most important thing. And it was just like, oh shit, she almost had something to do for herself for a sec there, but then luckily we made it all about Owen. Like, I don't know. It just felt very silly to me that it was like the biggest asset that she brought to the team was that she could convince Owen to come.
And are we going to talk about how this was such a like national treasure too? It's like, of course, they had to have broken up so that we can just like have some kind of romance again, but without introducing any kind of new characters.
Yeah,
and it's just
classic.
So
it's
old. Like I'm just so over that now.
It's just such a shit trope, and it's also because it's always this thing where it feels like, oh, okay, so. They're not attracted to each other unless they're saving each other from extremely stressful situations. Like the Mummy fixed this like 20 years ago. Why are we still? Especially
because they're that like real opposites attract thing. Like they're very different is like their whole thing. It's like they obviously are a horrible couple, and this is clearly an unhealthy relationship. Like, but you want me to now root for them for a second time. Like you barely had me in the first one / didn't really. Like they were clearly going to be horrible together. It's like, oh, good, they broke up. Now you want me to get back on board? Like, no way.
Yeah. I will say though, of this part, I really enjoyed the bit where Owen sits back and watches his like home movies where he was playing with Blue as a kid.
Yeah.
That actually made me feel the emotional connection and feel like, oh, Owen would change his mind and go help them when he watched these movies.
Yeah, there was a couple of scenes in this movie that actually made me like feel really emotional. And this was one of them. I was like, I guess like you knew that they were tight or whatever. Like you knew he was involved in their care, but seeing Blue as a baby really made you like, oh, he actually like raised her.
Yeah.
Like it was really sweet. And the videos of him demonstrating how she was actually like really compassionate. You're like, oh my God, it was so cute.
That was better. Like Blue got better characterization in that than half of the human characters in this movie. Like,
totally.
That's very true.
Yeah. Like you really felt their like connection and again you became really invested in that relationship, which just like every time Blue and Chris Pratt interact for the rest of the movie, you're like, oh, like
they are best friends. I believe, and like the whole thing where Owen's like, obviously I'm not going back to Dinosaur Island. That's a terrible plan. And you're kind of like, yeah. And then he watches the movie, and I was just like, well, now he's going to change his mind. Like, you're
like, oh, he can't 100%. Not go back now.
Yeah,
like Blue's there.
Like, really, it just worked.
Speaking of characters who didn't have as good development as Blue, can we talk about the two sidekicks, I guess?
The IT guy and
summary,
vet girl.
I like one, I don't like the other.
Which one did you like?
So it was interesting because initially, Frederick, I think his name is, the IT guy, he came on screen and I was like, I hate this guy. Like, I hate him. And then he really grew on me. They gave him a lot of funny lines. And like, there's one bit where he sort of gets mixed, like he's meant to be hiding, but then he gets put out and then they just assume that he works, like some bad guy henchman assumes he's working as another bad guy henchman. And just like, you know, what are you doing here? You need to go like outside or whatever. And then he just turns up like 5 scenes later as a lab tech. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, how the fuck did he end up there? It was so funny. And he just like, he screams really high pitch. He was just a funny character.
Oh, he has some funny lines at the start of the movie too. Like he genuinely made me laugh. Like Reuben, you've pulled out this quote here where he tells
okay, can we go through this quote? Because I swear to God, I just don't understand it. So it's between Owen and that guy whose name I can't remember. And so he's clearly nervous on the plane. Owen says, "Nervous flyer?" Then he says, "Would you ride a 1,000-pound horse that's been abused all its life?" And Owen says, "I rode my motorcycle through the jungle with a pack of raptors." and then he says, "We're not compatible." It's like it feels like a ChatGPT has written witty banter, and I just don't understand what it's saying. Like, what is the 1,000-pound horse? The plane? What does it mean? But that's been abused all its life. What do you mean it's been abused all its life?
It was a shitty old plane, I guess. That was what I took that as.
But then, okay, and then Owen's response is, "I rode my motorcycle through the jungle with a pack of raptors," which is, I guess, just him saying, in general, I'm a badass, so yes, I would do that thing. And then he says, "We're not compatible." Is that him and Owen? I don't understand. It's just such weird wording.
It's a weird socially awkward dude.
That was hilarious. I can't disagree with you more on this one. I thought that flow was great and is hilarious.
It doesn't make any sense.
There was another line just before that was very funny as well.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but it was another one of this guy's lines, and I remember off it. But this one, I love just like the idea that when somebody says they do something like ride a motorcycle, that like just the idea of just saying that we're not compatible.
It's such a weird way to phrase it, though.
But that's why it's funny.
Yeah, I guess. All right.
I also think he kind of like actually he kind of progressed throughout the film. Like he obviously started off as very cowardly, but then when push came to shove, he sort of like ended up being relatively brave, or he would get the job done and stuff. And even if he'd scream real high pitched and stuff the whole time, it was like, I don't know, the other chick just like, she was just that angry girl. And I was like, okay, I'm an angry girl. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to like you, but it's just, she was kind of nothing. And she was a little bit arrogant because the first scene she has, she's just like, oh, I don't want to talk to people on the phone because I'm a doctor. And I was like, ugh. He's so stuck up.
I get not wanting to talk to people on the phone. People fucking suck.
Yeah.
But
I procrastinated for 20 minutes trying to call somebody who I knew would be upset today. Like, and I just kept sitting there and staring at the phone number. I was like, really should make that call. But still, I hate her.
But yeah, sorry. But yeah, I guess just to summarize my opinion on IT Guy, I thought he started out the movie really strong and had some bits towards the end. But like in general, it was just like, I think there were probably 3 really annoying moments to every really funny one, which is just unfortunate.
Yeah.
I just, again, I feel like what was the point in adding in these characters when you weren't really going to bother taking the time? Like, they could have just, put more time into characterizing other people, like, is it Lockwood or whatever his name is?
The old guy.
Yeah, like, put more time into characterizing some of these other people that you've introduced and even the bad guys or whatever, rather than just putting, because they had those 2 shitty sidekicks in the first film too.
Yeah,
that were in the control room.
Yeah, they could have just reused
bring those people back, or just don't have them. Like, you don't need these people. They offer next to nothing.
I feel like these scenes, they always want 2 or 3 bodies to be chased by the dinosaur.
Yeah,
honestly, that's a lot of what it comes down to, I reckon.
It's just extra people, like, because if they split up or whatever, it's just so people aren't on their own the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more bodies to move around, basically, like pawns.
Yeah, but then they just so like 2-dimensionally characterize them that it's just like so painful.
Yeah,
like at least that one guy was funny. I guess the other chick performed that one sort of surgery. Literally anybody could have done that. Just pull the bullet out. Fixed.
I don't know. I don't think I could have done that. I'm going to be honest. I think you need some basic surgery experience.
She even had a self-retainer. You don't even need a retractor. Just shove that puppy in and pull it out.
These are all words. That's just word salad to me.
Pull out the bullet.
Well, no, the bit where the bit with all the tools.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true.
To change topic, we're introduced to the kid around here, and I felt pretty proud of myself that I picked almost immediately that she was a clone, but it didn't feel like a hard pick. So I don't know. How did you all go with that?
So, I mean, I've seen this film before, so I remembered that she was. I don't think I predicted it when I first saw the movie, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't think I saw it coming or anything. But like, because the thing that bugs me about this twist is it means nothing. Like this is the fucking cryptocurrency of twists, because it's a twist looking for a meaning. Like what does it matter to anything else in the movie? Where you take this girl out, or you take out that she's a clone, and nothing else about the movie changes. Like it doesn't tie into any of the other messaging unless it's going over my head. I don't understand the point.
There's that very heartwarming and great scene that was very good and not at all dumb, where she frees all the dinosaurs and says, "They're like me."
See, this is what I think. Again, one of my issues with this film is that I think it's like that they half did it. So there's that whole concept of like, do these dinosaurs have a right to life because they are artificially created beings, right? And there was that whole debate with them potentially going extinct. And so the fact that this, it's like, well, now the whole point of her could have been like, well, now you have a human clone. Do you think this little girl has a right to life? And that would make you think all of it. But they never actually, they just popped her in there. And yeah, exactly. So I think that's probably where the idea of her came from. But then they like forgot to do that and just whacked that one line in at the end from which you can like, with a bit of time, infer that that's what they were trying to get at. So I imagine that that's where the idea came from, but yeah, they just never really quite did that.
Yeah, like, to be fair, I'm not at all criticizing the concept here. It's very much just, the execution. Like, the thing is like, I agree. It could be totally fascinating to explore. And like, this would tie into what Malcolm was talking about at the start with the idea of genetic engineering. It's like, there's fertile ground to explore here that they just don't. So it ends up being this weird thing where it was like, yep, she's a clone.
Yeah, and then they just and that's what I'm saying is the problem with this is like it's like they had a few good ideas, but then it's like the script was due the day after and they didn't really they chucked an all-nighter, but they didn't really get quite time to pad it out properly. Like I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it feels like they put all the ideas down, but they never got to step 2, which is like using them to do anything.
Yeah, actually writing it so that any of those ideas worked, because that's what I have to imagine they were going for. And that actually is quite an interesting thing that they could have centered the whole film around. But instead they try to sort of shoehorn in a bunch of other stuff. Like, again, I quite like the black market dinosaur thing, but it didn't really...
But it's a different thing.
It kind of detracts from all of that. And so then they didn't really get time to actually do any of that other stuff, and it's like
it's just a messy film, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like the thought of some really great ideas, or the beginnings of some great ideas that they just forgot to actually finish off, which is a shame.
Yeah. But yeah, so the gang heads back to Jurassic World and they start getting access to the old systems, and Owen Grady goes to find Blue. And I was actually really impressed by the restraint of this film. They play like a spooky version of the main Jurassic Park theme when we get to the Brachiosaurus. And it's kind of weird. And we never get a triumphant Jurassic Park theme moment, which I was kind of impressed by. Like, they never play the proper Jurassic Park theme.
But also, isn't that weird? Because we're here to rescue the dinosaurs.
Yeah, it was weird a bit,
it's like
wasn't
it? And this is where the vet doctor girl is stepping out, and she's looking at the Brachiosaurus, and she's in complete awe and wonder. She's here to rescue these, magnificent, majestic creatures. And they played kind of the spooky version of the theme song. Like, I didn't get it.
Yeah, you're right. It didn't quite make sense. It was a bit weird. I didn't feel any sympathy for Owen and Claire and stuff getting betrayed. Like, I was fully on the side of the baddies at the start of this movie. When Owen got tranked, I was like, yeah, he's being annoying. Just trank him,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I was concentrating super hard on this part of the movie. I don't really remember the specifics. I remember all that stuff happening, but I don't really remember what anyone was talking about super much.
No, I agree. It honestly, it's this weird thing, and this I remember this has happened both times I've watched this film, where it seems like the second they shoot Chris Pratt, you're meant to be like, oh, they're evil, they've betrayed us. But I had the same reaction both times as you, Reuben, where I was like, oh, this is like an inconvenience or whatever. And then it's like, it's not until they betray people the next time that I'm like, oh, I see, they've gone full evil.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the movie expects me to have made that leap when they betrayed Owen, but it was like Owen was being difficult at that time, so I didn't get it.
Yes, it really, they kind of kept unveiling more and more how villainous they were, and it really was like, I felt like I was one step behind this movie.
Yeah.
It's just too smart for me, I guess, because I wasn't keeping up with and like I just kind of left me confused. Like they brought them here, and then they tranquilized them and betrayed them, and it was all in the end to find Blue so that they could, because Blue had special maternal instincts that they needed. But this kind of was unveiled slowly enough and kind of sloppily enough that I was just kind of like, am I meant to understand this? Am I just confused? I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of like was loosely explained later in the film. So most of that time it was hard to, again, like you guys have said, hard to maybe know for sure that they were the bad guys, because you were like, why are they doing any of this?
I mean, I
like,
think it's
have a
fine.
good reason for all I fucking know, because none has been given.
Yeah, it's obviously fine to kind of have a twist and then explain it later, but this movie didn't feel like it was doing that. It just felt like it was confusing. And then thinking back on it, you're like, okay, no, that actually makes sense, but it just didn't feel, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't trust this movie, I guess.
Well, no, I guess that's the thing is the movie doesn't play it like there is, like that you shouldn't understand why they've done this.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference is like usually if you're the author, you're sort of like, okay, well, they're going to betray us. But the important thing is that we don't really understand why. And that the movie didn't give me the impression that they thought like that. So I was just there and I was kind of like, are they just evil corpos who just, they're like, these are extra bodies they don't have to take care of? That's kind of stupid. And yeah, like why go to all this trouble then in the first place? And yeah, like it all sort of eventually catches up, but it was a bit like, I don't know, it was just, it's never at all brought up as weird that this was happening.
Yeah.
Part of me sometimes wonders if maybe this movie had some stuff going on and I just didn't catch it. Maybe this movie is good and I'm just an idiot, but that's not how it feels.
We're too dumb for this movie.
Like maybe all this confused messaging actually makes sense, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think just my opinion of this movie wasn't high enough for me to trust that there was more going on than what it was showing me immediately, and that led to a confusing experience. There's this fucking wild scene where Owen has been tranked and then is like, has to really slowly get away from the lava that's progressing towards him. And like it just looks so stupid. Like it's so unexciting because Owen is like rolling around on the ground and doing kind of, I guess, a comedy bit as, I don't know. It just was like really dumb.
It's
because
silly.
It actually is a terrifying idea, right? Like imagine if you were sort of paralyzed and you couldn't move your body and you could just see this like wall of lava coming at you. But then they sort of played it off as comedy, but not really. Like
I don't think it was meant to be comedy, but it looked like it.
Like I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be. Like, is this just funny because it's Chris Pratt? Or is this actually meant to be?
No,
like, I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be funny.
It looked like something Andy Dwyer would do. Like
it was. I think what it was like they. This is going to sound so mean. I'm sorry, Chris Pratt, but I think they meant it to be a comedic scene. But then Chris Pratt wasn't doing it funnily enough. And so in the edit, they had to be like, all right, this isn't working. Let's just try and make it dramatic.
It's actually sort of a really terrifying situation. Yeah. So they got somewhere halfway. But it could have been actually super scary.
It could have been. Either scary or funny, but it was neither.
Somewhere between.
It was so weird.
Yeah. Because playing it as straight comedy would be very tonally weird for the Jurassic Park franchise.
Well, it would have been better than having it be weird half and half, though, right? Like,
I mean, I guess. I don't know.
Because Chris Pratt was making weird faces and noises. That's what really fucked it up. Is he was making like weird grunts and groans that weren't like of terror, but of like, ooh, the kind of noises. And it was like really weird.
But we've also forgotten to mention, I've just written in my notes, there's a bit just before this where they're talking about somebody goes, oh, gee, it's hot on this island. And Chris Pratt looks at the volcano and goes, it's about to get a whole lot hotter.
Oh, I love
See,
the one
this is
liners.
actually a comedy film
Yeah.
because that is funny. That's a
That was a good one.
So, and I have to say, I'm curious if this is in everyone that, but like in my head, volcanoes and dinosaurs
Yeah.
are a
It's from
partnership.
Land Before Time.
Land Before Time
that's
is
gotta be
definitely
what it
heavily
is, yeah.
influenced this idea.
Like,
but
I just assumed for a lot of my childhood that earthquakes occurred regularly throughout the entire world during the period that the millions of years that dinosaurs
well,
lived.
and I think that is the thing, because I think like volcanic stuff is how a lot of dinosaur bones get preserved and stuff. So I think there is a lot of like extra knowledge about dinosaurs and new volcanic eruptions and stuff, because that's what's preserved some of them.
But that's just got to be, because like, we have like Pompeii as an example for humans, right? I think that's just a product of how long dinosaurs lived, rather than
yes, exactly. But it's like a confirmation bias in the evidence. Like similarly, when we talk about dinosaurs, because we're talking millions of years at a time, that naturally lines up better with like plate tectonic stuff, which is why earthquakes have become more of a thing, because that's the only thing you can study on those sorts of timelines. But definitely, just like there's something about Land Before Time 100% led this, but like I almost it seems weird to me if you're going to do dinosaurs and not have a little bit of a volcano in there at some point. Like
like I just had this funny moment because I'd forgotten all the volcano stuff. But I was like, oh my God, volcanoes and dinosaurs.
Yeah, like you need to do that at some point.
It was so funny.
Honestly, this is the best movie in the franchise because they finally did volcanoes.
Yeah, the lava as a threat was like kind of interesting, but it wasn't actually, I don't know. It led to one good scene in this movie, which is the sad Brachiosaurus on the jetty, which I
This
thought
is
was
the
great.
other scene that made me truly emotional.
Yeah.
I think I just said to Elliot, I was like, which is very our family. I just went, this is really sad.
Yeah. That was actually good. And like maybe the one emotional beat in this movie that properly landed. But other than that, the lava was just kind of there, I don't know, and there for Chris Pratt to awkwardly flop away from.
Maybe it's because I recently went to Iceland and heard a lot of like horror stories about volcanic eruptions and like related complications. But I was like, wow, this is really scary. I really enjoyed the volcanoes in sort of the moment in the
Fair enough.
No, I agree. The shot of the final dinosaurs getting swallowed by the ash cloud as well is weird because it's this huge moment for like, to me, that moment justified everything Claire had been fighting for, because it's like her whole thing was preserve the dinos, and we see what happens to the ones who don't get preserved, and it's genuinely gutting.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of don't really talk about it anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Then that part of the movie is over, and now it's time for a weird auction.
Yeah, especially I found myself flashing back to the bit where Claire's on the phone to whoever and says like, oh, this is the first generation of kids who've grown up with dinosaurs and now they have to witness them go extinct all over again. And I just found my mind thinking about that when that little guy was, well, he's not little, but he was dying and you're just like, oh man, they're all gone. Like actually, that's really like you think about what Malcolm was saying and you're like, yeah, but like also this is really sad. Like they did such a good job of really making you see. Yeah. And that you can imagine Claire spent presumably years on that island working with these dinosaurs, even though she was like the real, money lady. You're like, yeah, I can see how that would be really emotional for her. Like that was actually a really good scene.
Yeah, I think they could have milked more after it though. Like have her actually get affected by it for more than just one shot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And who else had their like really good scene was so the T-Rex like just loves to save the day. Like comes again.
It's
so
pretty
I think
friendly,
Owen's getting attacked by some other carnivorous dinosaur and the T-Rex swoops in and saves the day. And he does it another couple of times, I think, does it another couple of times in this film. And I was like, this T-Rex just is like this weird just goat who just turns up regularly and saves everyone.
It's just stupid, isn't it? Like it's just silly in this.
Because it's at the end of the film too. She just turns up and just eats something that was inconveniencing everybody.
Film too, where she teamed up with Blue to fight the Indominus Rex. It's a bit like, okay, nothing else that you've ever said about
and
T-Rexes.
she gives the blood transfusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like nothing else you've ever said about T-Rexes would lead me to believe that this is kind of the behavior that we should expect from this T-Rex. So it's all just meant to be a coincidence. But it's like a weird movie thing where it's like, yeah, we got to show how fucking awesome the
I
T-Rex
just think
is.
whoever has been writing, like somebody in the writer's room for these two films just loves T-Rexes and was like, they're the goodie now. Like they're going to save people all the time and everybody loves the T-Rex.
I feel like they're trying to have this thing of like the natural versus the unnatural, right? Where like Blue and her maternal instincts is the natural versus the Indominus Rex, which is the unnatural kind of monster. And then the T-Rex is kind of the natural thing. So it's still on the right. It's still on the good side because it's natural. I don't, and it actively hates the Indominus Rex or whatever because that's an unnatural creature, you know? Like,
but yeah.
I don't know.
Like, I don't think I'm supposed to believe that the T-Rex knows that, but
that's what it is. I think that's what it's. I think that's what it's kind of playing off of, right? Like
that's fair.
But that doesn't apply.
That doesn't apply to this scene right here. Like the scene we're talking about where it saves them from that other carnivore.
That's a good point. That's just it being a bro.
I thought it was just like maybe more like of a general alpha thing, right? Like that the T-Rex has a natural instinct to want to be the alpha is how I thought they were kind of playing it, and that so it naturally wants to challenge these new dinos that they keep making.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I don't
know.
Probably we're probably reading way too far into that. I think somebody just really likes T-Rex. It's probably more likely.
No, I do think in the previous film, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think this movie is very confused about whether dinosaurs fit into the natural or the unnatural category. And maybe there could have been really cool ground to explore there, but they don't.
Again, it's that same thing that they like started and then didn't ever finish. Is the idea of is an artificially produced clone, but that's made of real, you know, that these flesh and blood, is that a creature with rights?
Yeah. And also
it's such a cool idea.
I want to give this movie credit for using a bunch of different carnivores. Like so obviously the T-Rex here fights whatever the fuck it was fighting next to the orb. And then also, meanwhile, Claire and Franklin are being attacked by another kind of carnivore in their little lava cave. And I don't know. I like that. Like when it felt like the first kind of couple of films, it was just like Velociraptors and T-Rexes, and also the one extra. Like it'd be like Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3 or Indominus Rex in Jurassic Park 4. This one just tosses extra ones at us. It's great.
That dinosaur in the bunker, it just totally climbs a ladder at one point. Can dinosaurs climb ladders, do you think? That took me out of it. So I was like, well, again, this is obviously a fucking documentary, Elliot, so that's the answer to that question.
Well, I don't think dinosaurs had ladders.
So they never had the chance to prove themselves.
Yeah. You know, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a ladder, it's still fair because fish don't have ladders.
About,
that's true.
Like, I don't know, the biomechanics of it, like they're very tail heavy. It feels like it would have been difficult for them to have the particularly upper limb strength to climb up something.
But
I see what you mean, like with that big fat tail in the end.
But this was a very slinky dinosaur carnivore, and it had big like there was an interesting moment here where like it had extra grabby hands that I was almost like, oh, is there a bit of this in the Indoraptor? Because we later see the Indoraptor has very like almost opposable thumbs and stuff. Like it's I guess this was just like a thing where I was kind of like, it would have been really cool if like when there were like 4 dinosaur fights on the island, if each dinosaur had a special ability and then the Indoraptor had all 4, that could have been a really fun plot device.
That would have been cool. So I'm just wondering now, I'm stuck. You've gotten me on a tangent. Like, are dinosaur bones really light, like a bird's bones? Because then they could maybe climb this ladder because they don't actually. How dense is their muscle tissue? You know, I don't know. That
is something interesting. The whole like, because now we know dinosaurs were like feathered and shit, right? Or
I think some of them were.
Has that been disproven again?
No, like that's. I think the back and forth was because everyone tries to apply it to all the dinosaurs. I think they're like they're now saying that a bunch, like it's just like some were, some weren't, some were a little bit. Like I think it's a whole fucking mess because these things were around for like hundreds of millions of years. Like,
I went
I
to
think it
the
changed.
exhibit on T-Rexes specifically, and they are like, I think a lot of the carnivorous ones are thought to have had feathers.
Yeah, and but like the
sort of,
T-Rexes
like,
had
little
really
wings.
little manky feathers, didn't they? Like they weren't like it didn't look like a bird. Like it looked like a half plucked chicken.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I
what
don't know.
I'm seeing based on some Googling right now. But so,
Yeah.
like,
They were very colourful, is what they now suspect as well.
I feel like we learned that in the past decade, right, or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe not quite that, but like after Jurassic Parks 1 and 2 were made for sure.
Yeah, but Jurassic World hasn't really addressed that. Is that weird?
No,
I think they've just decided to skip it because it'd be weird to try and then retcon.
Didn't they mention it in Jurassic World? Wasn't there a throwaway line about how it was because they mixed the DNA with frogs?
Oh,
Is
you
that
might
right?
be right.
Have I just decided that my head canon is canon?
No, you might actually be right about that.
I think maybe it's in the next movie that there's that throwaway. I swear there's a throwaway line at some point where they mention that they don't have feathers because of the frog DNA.
All right, I'm Googling this.
Shit, they should bring that design. That's terrifying. I've just pulled up this picture of this T-Rex. It's like red and blue, and it's got feathers.
It looks like a Jurassic Park
scary.
T-Rex went to a masquerade party.
Yeah, it's like Mardi Gras T-Rex.
I've got a picture here of
It's scary.
An edit of a Jurassic World screenshot, but where they gave the T-Rex feathers. It's pretty fun.
Of course, somebody used up their own time to do that.
Anyway, what are we talking about? Oh yeah, the dinosaurs all run off a cliff.
This is going back a bit. Crocodiles eat 50 meals a year, so less than once a week.
Yeah, okay. So if you extrapolate how big a crocodile is, so we had lizards every 2 days, you said.
Yeah.
Crocodile once a week.
Oh yeah, so it will probably just eat once a year or something.
That thing's only eating once
could seriously
every
have
2 to 3
survived.
months.
It's still digesting the assistant that it ate.
And even if it got left in there for like a year, it's like
it's
probably
much.
very hungry, but it's not necessarily dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So these people should have researched that
yeah.
before. This was a quick Google search.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So going back to the bit where they all fall off the cliff, I gotta say I really, really, really liked this scene. Like the orb underwater, and then all the dinosaurs also jumping off the cliff and like landing in the water around them was
drowning.
Beautiful.
Drowning Triceratops.
Yeah, like
so sad.
It was like visually and emotionally really impacting. And then I got bored when we started trying to get the humans out alive because it's like, no, I want to see more of these struggling dinos.
And also all the volcanic debris, like projectiles falling onto them as well. So it's like you're dodging lava, there's falling dinos, like you're stuck in. That was a great scene, actually.
Yeah, I really liked it too. Especially the way the falling lava and shit landed and kind of hissed on the top of the on the top of the glass ball. It was like it felt really good and like melted through the glass ball to let water in. It was like really cool. How do these glass balls not have a way to escape from inside them? This park was so terribly designed.
It doesn't make any sense.
You could have fallen in the lake and just died. Like,
yep.
Well, especially because Chris Pratt just kind of shoots it open with his underwater gun.
That's actually an underwater
I don't know a lot about
gun.
guns, but I didn't think they usually worked underwater very good.
Can get ones that do.
Yeah,
anyway.
but his was just like his gun that he had with him.
His 9mm that cannot take down a rhinoceros.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, the orbs don't really make sense, but it was worth it, I think, for this scene. Like, I loved just the imagery of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a really good scene.
Yeah. But yeah, so the gang manages to escape. They jump a car onto a boat before the island gets completely lava flooded. And it's crazy that they just jumped this car onto the boat and nobody seemed to... Because I thought, there's no one around to see it. But then you see what's on the other side of where they jumped, and there's people everywhere. It's like packed. But just nobody cared.
Like, they get on there, and like nobody was looking backwards yet. Like like they're literally fleeing an ash cloud, and nobody on the boat was looking towards the back.
Not just towards the back of the boat, but out where there are all these dinosaurs. Like what is clearly quite a poignant moment.
Yeah. Like, it's a bit nonsense. Yeah. But this is a wrap on Isla Nublar,
Mm,
which is a bit sad.
Yeah.
there we go.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It could come back in the
Yeah,
next film.
probably they'll come back.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it would. Georgia, they would never.
No, what they're going to do is they're going to say, "Oh, there was actually a third island the whole time," and that's
Well, no,
what we
there's
had.
still the second one.
No, they're going to have a third one because we've already used the first one up. We used the second one up. Time to make a third island that was there the whole time.
Yeah. It's time
And
to go back to
actually, they were
Isla.
testing more dinosaurs there, this time with feathers.
I can't wait for the feathers.
Yeah. Also, the ship that they're on, the one that was rescuing all these dinosaurs, is called the Arcadia, which I thought was funny.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
Just 'cause it's
I get
Ark.
it, obviously, but
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
Like
see,
Noah's
okay.
Ark.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Can we talk about? And I've been meaning to ask Hamwise this because she's a vet, but it doesn't make sense that a T-Rex can donate blood to a Velociraptor, does it? Like, I feel
don't
like
think so.
like most humans can't donate blood to other humans, so it feels
Could
like a
you-
big stretch.
Okay, I'm going to Cora again for the third time in this episode. Could you get a blood donation from a monkey? Is the question. Blood donation.
okay,
so no,
so-
Arcadia is a Greek utopia thing,
Yeah.
but that's also
I thought it
silly.
sounded familiar. I think yours actually maybe makes more sense.
Because
Anyway.
there was Joan of Arcadia was a show
Mm.
when we were 10. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, wait. I don't care.
I do want to say this whole blood from the T-Rex thing, even if it doesn't make biological sense, it is worth it for the plot device later where this guy wants to draw Blue's blood and she's like, you can't, it's been tainted.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, yeah.
And then he's like, what do you mean? I bred her, she's pure. And it's like, no, I chucked some T-Rex blood in there like 24 hours ago. And he's like, you did what? Worth it for that. I love that moment. But as it was going on, I was a bit like, does this make sense?
So, like, I won't pretend to fully know the answer. I mean, I know, like, dogs can give blood transfusion to other dogs that are not necessarily the same breed, but that's not quite the same thing.
But they can also have babbies together.
Yeah, so they are the same species, but not the same subspecies.
I mean, do we know for sure that T-Rexes and Velociraptors can't have babbies?
Mate, they could have been millions of years apart for all I know,
Well,
right?
I think they were,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure they were. But like the other, she's just like something else that has two claws. It's like, okay. But like I know, so like horse immuno like globulins or whatever will be used for like antivenoms. So to produce an antivenom for a human, you inject the poison into a horse and then they produce antivenom essentially, and then you put that into a person. You can only ever have that once because you can have it once, but then the next time you will have like a significant, essentially like allergic reaction.
Okay.
So like I won't pretend to really know the science of it because it's like something I only vaguely know a little bit about, but don't, certainly not specialized in. But it's like maybe you could have the one transfusion, but Blue could definitely couldn't have a second transfusion would be the only thing I could say for sure.
Sure.
But
I mean,
my suspicion is no. Like I don't think a human can have a blood transfusion from a monkey. I'm pretty confident that's not possible.
It's not possible. It seems like there's research into pig blood transfusions, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah.
because they do a lot with pig organs, don't they?
Yeah, you can have a heart valve from a pig, like a porcine valve. But again, like that has to be heavily treated, right? Like it's and that's just structural. Like that's just a piece of flesh.
Oh well, whatever. I mean, it doesn't. Like it's just, they're living dinosaurs from frog DNA. Like
And that's a good point because if they share enough like frog DNA, like they're not purely dinos, right? Like as much as Henry or whatever his name is like, this is a pure, it's like, no, you put a bunch of frog DNA in there, dude. Like this is not a pure dinosaur.
I again, it is fully worth it for when Henry's going on about how pure she is and this lady just gets to smugly tell him that she's stuffed it full of T-Rex blood.
He's like, what? Like, wait,
why
what?
would you do this? Yeah, it's great.
I wasn't saving her life. I just did it. See if it worked.
And so this is the end of the first part of the movie, and we move into the second part. We get Toby Jones joining the cast, just so we have a more obvious villain immediately. And then kind of the plot starts to make sense. They want to make more dinosaurs. They needed some seed capital, so they had to steal and sell some dinosaurs first. Like, sure, that kind of makes sense. except we're going back to the weaponized velociraptor thing, which doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you ever want to use a... The line that he says is, humans have used animals in warfare for ages, like dogs and, war elephants and horses and shit. And then you're just like, but we don't use horses and elephants anymore, There's a reason we stopped doing that.
Yeah, the movie spends a solid 3 minutes trying really hard to justify why it makes sense to build Indoraptors to use for war, and it just doesn't work.
Does not make sense.
Especially because so much of it is like blue is the special super secret source ingredient because blue is extra compliant, and that is the key to making this whole operation work. And it's like, there's like a whole thing because Owen can barely control her and he's basically her mom. Like, it's so hilarious to me. It's like this whole operation centers around Blue because she's the compliant one. It's like at any point she's one thing away from potentially killing Owen, her mom. Like, so it's a shit plan.
Yeah, like I mean, first of all, I like the idea of, as I've already said, like the black market dinosaurs is sort of cool. But again, it's like it just turns into this big mess. Like, because why do they reintroduce the idea of the Indoraptor is just the Indominus Rex? And then they even point out that like the whole issue that they harped on about the Indominus Rex was that they forgot about the fact that it needed to be socialized in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So then what they've done is made this prototype, this new dinosaur, but then made the exact same mistake, then realized after they'd already made it and gone, okay, we need Blue. But I'm not super clear how they were going to use that because I think it was too late for this one was a prototype that they were planning to like get rid of. So then they were going to maybe make another one and then have Blue just be its mom. But also like, I don't know, it's like they just were like, Blue's really empathetic. It's like, okay, but so like Elliot said, it's like she has, and like she had a relationship with Chris Pratt and like with her pack. But like, why is she just going to take to this random baby dinosaur that they shove in with her?
I think they needed extra DNA from her or something to make the next one.
I thought they wanted her to be the mum.
Oh, no, see, I thought they because that's why he's coming to draw her blood later with the T-Rex. I think they're very specifically looking for whatever extra genes she has that makes her more social.
So essentially like what humans did with dogs.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Like, so they want the next Indoraptor to have her Velociraptor DNA specifically rather than regular Velociraptor in the hopes that it will make it more social.
Yeah. Which again, I still think they're confusing. It's like, okay, Blue has a lot of empathy, but she's not like that empathetic or compliant. Like, I think you make a good point.
It's a bad plan. Yeah.
And also, they already have the system that seems to work of point a laser at a thing and then it'll go kill it. Like, you don't want an empathetic weapon, do you? Like, I don't want a weapon that's going to not kill the thing I tell it to kill.
Well, like, I can imagine you having the idea that instead of having that, you would progress to more like,
like a dog,
like a human, with a hunting dog or with like a hunting hawk or something.
Like,
I don't know. Well, I guess you want one that you don't have to worry about it turning around and killing you at the first opportunity.
Which again, I feel like the stupid thing here is like as though like it just doesn't make sense that adding Blue's blood would magically make this thing nice. Like, no, this is like a thing that takes hundreds of years of breeding and and you're already genetically engineering them. Why can you not genetically engineer that component? Maybe they wanted to study Blue's blood
to be able to
try and identify the genes that make her. That sounds really complicated.
So but Henry is a genius. I mean, they made dinosaurs in the 90s of this world. Is true. So like, I want to pitch a new tinfoil theory that I've just come up with during this conversation.
Okay.
And this is coming a little bit with my knowledge of what happens in the next film, which I know neither of you have seen, but I think this movie is partially so confused because I think it's trying to be both the first and second movie in a trilogy.
Which was like, that we've had this for another trilogy. Was it Pirates of the Caribbean?
Oh, maybe.
I can't remember. I feel like we've said this before. Anyway,
but because Jurassic World was very standalone, and then there's almost this sense in this one where it's like this whole first chunk of the movie where they went to that island and rescued the dinosaurs and stuff is kind of its own story that then leads into this second one And like, I don't know, it just almost feels like these are two separate movies, and it feels like the first one was standalone, then they got greenlit for a trilogy, and so they sort of haphazardly chucked what would be the start of the actual trilogy into the first half of this movie, because it all then leads into the second one, and then this movie actually naturally progresses a lot better into the next one than here. So like,
well, that's kind of the sense I got as somebody who hasn't seen the third one, is that I felt like all that random shit that they've crammed in the end must be continued on, because it kind of doesn't really maybe get fully resolved. You feel like you can sense that that's going to continue, but that was what partly didn't work about this film, was that there was a lot of really like disconnected
but like
plot and ideas.
Yeah, I feel like they want to take. Like, I feel like in an ideal world, it would be like they would have known they were doing a trilogy from the get go, and I think you could get basically most of the first half of this film and just chop up the important bits and stick them in the back half of Jurassic World 1, and then this film could have just been the mansion and the auction and dealing with the themes it wanted to. But it was almost like it got buried in having to add 45 minutes at the start to put the seeds in Jurassic World 1 that it needed, by adding in a whole second trip to the island.
Well, again, I also kind of feel like it wouldn't have taken a huge effort to be like, okay, we're going to add in this whole next bit with a new Indoraptor or whatever the fuck, because that needs to tie into the next film, and still connect that with the idea that they never really got around to, of like, isn't that just another step in this whole debate about what's a living creature? Like, so you've got the dinos that have been sort of relatively closely replicated. You have a clone of a human, and now you have this completely artificially created, like this never existed in nature thing that's been created by a human with the sole purpose of killing. Now, does that have a right to live? Like, I just feel like all of these things could have been very easily connected ideas, but they just couldn't be bothered, and that would have tied it together, so it wouldn't have felt so shoehorned.
It
would have felt more cohesive.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Because I feel like that's where I draw the line. I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like the Indoraptor has the same right to life that this is now me just getting caught up in this idea that they never finished. But like, you see the T-Rex and you see the Brachiosaurus dying, and you're like, yeah, I mean, they were made by people, but like they were like living creatures.
They function in nature. Like, I'm thinking back to the Indominus Rex. Remember, it just ran around killing everything for sport.
Yeah, like it was fucked up, because it was not. It was like, and again, there was this like very fine difference between taking natural DNA and just making it so it could, adding a little bit of frog so that it could, be sort of roughly a T-Rex again, where like, and like exactly cloning a human. It's like, well, it came about differently, but that's still a human. Whereas these ones are like these weird genetically engineered, so they don't have maybe the benefit of evolution. Like they haven't evolved, they've been made, and is that the distinction? Because you kind of turn all Ian Malcolm. I look at this thing and I'm like, there's a bit where Chris Pratt is like, that thing cannot leave this building. You're like, that thing has to die. Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah. Although I will say, I think the Indoraptor is a downgrade from the Indominus Rex.
It was weird to just have a worse version of the Indominus Rex. Like, I did not get that.
It had half as many superpowers. The gold stripe is a huge upgrade, but that's it.
That's cool. The gold stripe is cool. It's pure cool.
It didn't feel like it was any smarter or more dangerous. I agree. It was kind of almost just like, if I hadn't met the Indominus Rex in the last film, I wouldn't have been half as scared as this one. Like, I was only scared of this one because I thought it's kind of like the Indominus Rex, which was really scary.
The only advantage the Indoraptor has over the Indominus Rex is that it's scarier when you're in a house, because the Indominus Rex was too big for houses.
Yeah.
Which plays into the Indoraptor's favor in this film. And maybe arguably, if you're going to send it into caves or whatever the fuck they used to talk about with the Velociraptors, that makes more sense than the Indominus Rex. But like, it was very much like, this seems like a downgrade from last monster with all its superpowers.
Something they, I think, added, like, I don't remember the Indominus Rex having this, that I thought was really cool, was they gave it all of these like ticks. Like, it had all these little unnatural movements, like it was always clicking its claw on the ground and doing all these like little twitches with its face. that just like really honed in on how unnatural
Yeah.
it was. Like that all the movements were just really unnatural, and they fell into that sort of almost like uncanny valley thing.
Like, it's
like,
good horror movie monster stuff because
Yeah.
this bit in the mansion with the Indoraptor is just. I mean, I guess we're getting ahead of the notes, so maybe we should come back to this. But that's where it just turns into a bit of a horror movie, which is what Jurassic Park 3 had done the best until maybe this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely found I think after the stampede scene was really good, and the movie does pick up from there in terms of moment enjoyment. Like
Yeah.
this whole selling of on the black market and then the chaos that ensues is like fun to watch. Whereas the first half of the movie is really fucking boring.
Yeah, which again is just feeding into my conspiracy theory that it wasn't really meant to be a big part of the movie. It just got bloated because they had to add all these seeds and justify including it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it did feel pretty chunky, didn't it? It felt long.
It is almost. It's somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, so it's between a third and a half of the film. And I think it all literally just exists to plant seeds they would have rather planted in Jurassic World 1, but didn't because it wasn't a trilogy.
Yeah.
But it's sort of that thing, when you add one scene in the island, it's like, well, now we need to justify going to the island in the first place, and it probably just snowballed from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the dinosaurs, our heroes and buyers all arrive at the mansion at around the same time, and it's crazy. There's this huge secret lab under the mansion, and Not Hammond just doesn't know about it at all. Like, because those things take time to build. Like he
did know. Like, he must know there's a lab down there. I just don't think he knew what it was being used for.
Do you think?
Well, they were planning on bringing.
It was a secret lab, though, because like when the baddie goes down there, he has to like secretly type in a passcode into a hidden thing, doesn't he?
Yeah, but I think Lockwood would have had his own password too.
You think? I don't know.
To get up.
Like, because he the plan was to bring the dinosaurs there, so like he knew that they had the these sorts
maybe
of
it was just secret from the clone kid actually, because she definitely seemed to not know it was there. But that kind of makes sense given that she was made there, probably.
Yeah, and like secret from the general public, but like I think Lockwood was aware that there was all that shit going on. He just didn't really know what was actually
right. That makes sense. Okay, all right.
But that could just be me trying to make sense of the fact that, because you're right, it would be ludicrous to think that this dude lived in a mansion, didn't know about the bottom half of it.
Which, yeah. Anyway, and then Mills, who's the villain, murders Lockwood and then says, "Now I'm her guardian." And I was just kind of like,
why?
Well, why? Yeah, because
it makes even more sense than Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, who end up taking her at the end of the film.
They don't have any rights to her. They just take
less
her.
Sense.
Yeah, but Mills is like, "No, I'm her guardian now." But like, does he have power of attorney over Lockwood or something? Like, what's the situation here? It's like
it's not unlikely that in the will that he would have been her guardian. Who else?
I mean, I guess the whole point is Lockwood trusted this guy too much.
Yeah,
because it was like Lockwood put him in charge of everything because he thought he was this idealistic guy, and that turned out he was, white businessman guy.
But like, power of attorney is different to like, I hired you to run my foundation.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I guess maybe he just still trusted him and had given him. But yeah, it seems a bit ridiculous to put all your eggs in one basket like that. Especially when, like Maisie's had no interaction with Mills.
Who else was going to be his power of attorney?
Well, the old lady who took care
of... The old lady, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be the guardian. But if he's power of attorney...
Oh, I guess.
He can essentially override that decision. I think.
I don't know.
Anyway, weird. Just weird and contrived stuff at this point.
It was a little bit of a leap.
Yeah. But yeah, so Owen and the gang start to escape, basically just causing havoc at the auction, getting a bunch of people killed. I don't know. What are they? Owen's just like very laissez-faire with how much she's willing to murder a bunch of rich people. And I guess I'm on board with that theoretically. It just felt weird.
Yeah, I mean, they're baddies. They were here to buy the dinosaurs they rescued, and these are the people who are working with the guys who betrayed him and tried to kill him. Like,
So I'm a little bit, again, I found myself trying to recall Owen's backstory. So, because there's a part here where he runs through and KO punches like 5 big burly security guys in a row. Now, I remember he was in the military. I think he was in the Navy.
He was in the Navy, yeah.
And I joked about him training Navy SEALs because he was also an animal behavioral expert. But I don't remember what he actually did because
we don't know.
He kicks ass. Like,
it's that building house juice that you get, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like just the natural. He's actually been shaving every 30 minutes just because the amount of testosterone coursing through his veins after he started building his own house is just overpowering.
Yeah.
Like he's just at one with ultimate manhood.
But was he in some kind of special ops combat role? Like they never said anything, right? They just like he was in the military.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I just found myself in here. I was like, I don't know Owen's backstory. Who is Owen?
I do know that in real life, like there are quite a few bouncers and people who work security who aren't physical threats. Because the thing is, like, for a normal security job, 90% of it is just having someone there just like stops most crime, or at least covers you for insurance because the security guard.
I work in a hospital.
Yeah,
they just loom.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're mostly just people there to be so like, you know, there are a lot of like I know quite a few guys. They're just big guys, and so it's just like you just hire them as security. It's like they're not actually people who can fight for shit. I wouldn't expect those would be the sorts of guys who would be security at an underground multi-million-dollar dinosaur auction, but maybe they snuck
for like
in
an arms dealer. Like, would I expect an arms dealer has like actual
like ex-Mossad or I don't know, but maybe these guys snuck through. They'd been bouncing at the local pub.
Chris Pratt's just a huge badass because what the fuck is his backstory? We don't even know. They haven't bothered to tell us.
He was in the Navy and he also knows about dinosaurs somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
I mean, I know like the military does do like people who are in combat roles, and then when they come out of them, they'll often offer them retraining. So maybe it was like special ops and then he got retrained as an animal behavioral expert.
Yeah.
Usually it's things more like, nursing or like a trade. But maybe Owen was like, I really want to be an animal behavioralist, and then was really fucking good at it, and so got a job with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you all see how the Indoraptor smiled as it killed Toby Jones? Or was it Toby Jones? Yeah.
It
was the military guy, wasn't it?
Wheatley. Yeah, the evil version of the bald guy.
It was like happy. Like I don't know. Fuck, this movie's crazy. It was so weird. It smiled. Do reptiles know how to smile?
Well, no, I think Henry specifically programmed this one so it could smile.
He added it.
That was his attempt to make it more nurturing and able to connect with people by giving the ability to smile.
Yeah, I did like because there were a lot of theories. I remember when this movie came out that the Indoraptor had human DNA in it, to the point where Colin Trevorrow actually had to get up and say that it didn't have human DNA, which I thought was funny. Because like, who cares?
No, but there was like concept art that did have human features.
So that was separate. That was after Colin Trevorrow said this one didn't have human DNA in it. Then all that stuff came out. Yeah, there was when they were going to make Jurassic Park 4, just after Jurassic Park 3, they were going to have dinosaur-human hybrids, and the concept art for those leaked. It was
horrible.
But that was after Colin Trevorrow had already said no to this human DNA thing. Cool. So, yeah, the timeline's very odd, because, that was how I found out that he'd said this one didn't have, because I went looking for those concept things, and they weren't actually from this movie. They're from Jurassic Park 4, which
they're really horrifying, aren't they?
Yeah, they look just like the bad guy in Split, which is a great film everyone should watch. Georgia, do you recommend Split?
God,
I only saw part of it.
The Triceratops one is crazy. They look like they're out of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know how there were those like what were they called, like Bebop and Rocksteady? There were those a pig and a something. I don't know.
Now I'm thinking of Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong. Split is that movie made by what's his face?
Yeah, M. Night.
I'm thinking of a different movie. Hold on.
Who can guess what movie Elliot's thinking of first? Play along at home.
I can
Tweet at
see
us if your
the
guess.
actor he's looking up, and I still have no idea.
Who's the actor? Give us a clue.
David Hewlett.
I don't know who that is.
Splice. That's why I'm confused.
Oh, yeah,
Splice,
yeah,
not
yeah.
Split. The movie Splice?
I was thinking of the movie Splice, even
When
though
I
you
said Split.
said Split.
Yeah. Very similar names. Anyway, that movie genuinely, like Hamwise, our sister, I think is probably the biggest horror movie buff out of the three of us, it would be fair to say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like, and she was traumatized by this film. She
Those
still
seem creepy.
It's a terrifying movie. I fully recommend it.
Yeah. Cool.
Gross.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like dinosaurs run loose in the house and lab, and oh yeah, here's something I noticed that was weird. At one point, the system goes down, and then that also turns off the lamps in the mansion. Do you think everything's on the same power line, or just poorly designed?
Yeah.
You know,
why would you split it up, Reuben?
But
There's
that's
also
not how a house works, let alone a mansion and a secret lab.
What pisses me off is there's a part where they're in this dinosaur museum later, and Owen intentionally turns off the lights, and what was he thinking? Like
We lost it. Well, like, do you think you are better in the dark than the dinosaur that has been genetically engineered to have superpowers? Like,
it's
no
a
way.
crazy choice. Like, yeah, they're like trying to sneak away from the dinosaur, and he turns all the lights off, and I was just, there's just no way that's better.
He has super smell and super hearing,
and
super eyes. Like, how are you going to do better than this dinosaur?
You're not, yeah. Anyway.
I liked the bit where the little girl, Macy, I think it is, she's trying to go into the laundry chute and the Indoraptor is coming up the corridor and she's trying to shut it. And it's just like the scene from the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's
where
very
Lex
reminiscent.
is like trying to close the door when the Velociraptor is coming at her. I liked that callback.
I like the part where they do the explosion down in the basement and Blue runs away from it, and it's just like what Chris Pratt always does with explosions, but it's like a it's just like this weird moment where Blue is just a full-on action hero running away from an explosion. It kind of makes no sense.
She sniffs the gas as well, which I was like, am I supposed to believe that a Velociraptor knows what
gas smells like? It's crazy.
And then she runs off. I was like, sure. She's
wild.
Smart. This is what I'm supposed to take.
It's just such a funny. I just just having a Velociraptor action hero moment just made me cackle. I loved it.
I have just written here, Blue is so cool. Like, I just love Blue. I think she's really fucking cool.
She's one of the best developed characters in this trilogy.
Yeah, she's my favorite character, I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, so the Indoraptor goes on a murder spree, but they eventually get it gored on the tusks of a Triceratops skull.
Yeah.
Sorry, just remembering that is very silly. And then all the dinosaurs get let free by the little clone. I don't know, man. I was kind of tapping out of the movie at this point, I think.
Yeah. What gets me is they're making such a big deal out of what they're doing here, and it's like 20 dinosaurs tops. Like, they're sort of like, this will change everything. And I'm like, how?
Because I was really caught up in it.
It's like 20 female dinosaurs you let get. It's like, it's going to change the local habitat for 20 years. Like, this is nothing.
Even.
Because I was really caught up in it and I was like, oh my God, she let them out. And then Elliot said that and I was like, huh. Good point.
There's like 20 dinosaurs, and there's no way the US military isn't going to come in and kill them, right? Like, because it's not like they just let lions run around in cities. Like, of course they don't. They're going to come and fucking deal with it. Like, what?
No, but they said they wouldn't interfere with the dinosaurs. So
that was before they're on an island. I don't know. It's just like,
but they said
if the next movie is like, now dinosaurs live among humans, I'm just going to lose it. Is this like a prequel to that movie where Whoopi Goldberg teams up with a dinosaur as a cop? Because that's what it's feeling like now.
What are you talking about?
You don't know that movie?
No.
It's like a buddy cop movie where the two cops are Whoopi Goldberg and a dinosaur.
Is that the Super Mario Bros. Movie?
What's it called? It's called Theodore Rex.
Oh my God.
I have to look this
You all
up.
didn't know about this movie? This is what Jurassic World 3 is going to be, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I can't tell you what.
Let me read the plot summary.
Yeah.
In an alternate futuristic society where humans and anthropomorphic dinosaurs coexist, a tough police detective named Katie Coltrane, Whoopi Goldberg, is paired with an anthropomorphic Tyrannosaurus named Theodore Rex to find the killer of dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals. Oh, crazy. Anyway, yeah.
Which leads them to a ruthless billionaire bent on killing off mankind by creating a new ice age.
But yeah.
He does look like Theodore Rex in this poster. He does look like the dad from that Dinosaurs TV show.
He looks like Barney the dinosaur.
Did you hear they're rebooting Barney the dinosaur?
No.
Yeah.
Why?
Did it stop airing?
Why not?
But it's perfect.
Yeah. Oh no, because somebody was saying the way I found out about this was some conservative senator was like they're redoing Barney the dinosaur and they better not make him woke. And I was thinking, this dude fucking prances around singing about friendship. Like, I don't know how are you going to make him any more woke?
It's like, I love you,
Yeah,
you love me. Oh, I Black lives don't matter. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, in what world was Barney not already super fucking woke?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Anyway, yeah, I think I've been saying the whole time we've been doing this series, I'm so excited to get to Jurassic World 3 with the two of you, because this Jurassic World 3 is just maybe more than any movie I've ever seen, just stupid fun distilled. And you guys are both going to love it. I can't wait. I almost want to watch it. Like, we got to get the three of us to watch it together because I need the live reactions.
I've just hit that ending. Oh man. But I don't remember to what exactly I'm referring.
So they have a montage where the dinosaurs all get out, and it gives this big speech about how this changes everything, which again, it doesn't, because it's like 20 dinosaurs.
Jeff Goldblum is back.
That's right.
And then he says, we've entered a new era. Jurassic World.
He says, welcome to Jurassic World, which is a shit ending line.
Will that be our new opening podcast instead of welcome to the high ground? Welcome to Jurassic World.
Yeah, because I guess we live in the post-dinosaur world now, if we, according to the timeline. So obviously dinosaurs are the new dominant species.
All 20 dinosaurs died from COVID.
Imagine if that's how Jurassic World Dominion starts. It's like, oh, actually, all those dinosaurs died. Sorry, they got COVID.
You know how cats got COVID? So did dinosaurs.
No, but there's the weird thing here, and this ties into all the stuff with the dinosaurs being the dominant species. Reuben's called out the bit here where there's a lion and a T-Rex that yell at each other.
I think that's where I wrote.
That's right. Oh my god, that was so
really
good.
Dumb.
What the fuck?
Just as if the T-Rex doesn't eat that lion in one bite.
Yeah. So to be clear, not very specifically, but that's the kind of stupid energy that permeates most of the next film. Is like awesome. The sort of seeing a lion and a T-Rex yell at each other. You're going to have about 40 of those moments next month. It's great.
That's great.
It's a delightfully shit film, but I guess it almost feels like there's some statement being made here that's like a climate change-ish metaphor, or like a March of there's all these moments where it feels like this movie is touching on setting up some kind of climate change metaphor, but it's not coherent enough for me to understand what the fuck they're going for. Like, you know what I mean? It's just maybe not climate change, or
I think there's a general concept of interfering with the natural order of things is something that's permeated all of the films, though, that I don't think is.
But they almost make out like the dinosaurs is nature taking us back. Like, obviously, because the first film was the whole in the good Jurassic Park, the whole thing was like humans think we're above nature, but we're not. We're still beholden to nature, and that was the first one. And then in this one, it's almost like saying this is our punishment. Claire has let these 20 dinosaurs out, and now they've taken over the world again. And there's almost, some moral in there about how we're treating the world and the environment, which is like borderline climate changey, but just doesn't really make sense. I don't know. Maybe it feels like they're bridging on something about the way humans interact with nature on a global scale, but not in a coherent way.
Or it's just heaps vague. Like, it's just like, we're disrespectful of nature.
Yeah, but I don't know. Vague to the point of not working.
Yeah,
for me,
like
at least.
I can't do better than that because it's not anything to go. Are we going to talk about the fact that I already touched on this, but so Claire and Owen just have a child now? Like she just
that
in their
child won't
car.
appear in the next movie. Don't worry about it.
So, but like they maybe got back together, like barely. They made out for a bit, and now they just like have a child together, and they're a terrible couple, and they're really toxic.
I think they just wanted that child so they could take her back to Isla Nublar, and that's where
They
they're going to
took
leave
to
her.
her very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
And she's got no other option.
Oh, guys, I can't wait to watch the next. We need to watch it.
Is she
all
part
together.
dinosaur?
Like, are
do
they
you
a
think?
family now? Like, I'm just really
I
confused.
can't wait to watch this with you. It's so good.
All right.
So yeah, we'll be back for Jurassic World Dominion. Honestly, I've been waiting for this since day one.
I can't believe it's here already. I feel like it was not that long ago that we were saying like, oh yeah, in 6 months. Like that came out 6 months ago. It feels like it was just the other day. My life's flashing before my eyes.
I can't wait.
Cool.
Well,
anyway,
next time
thanks.
we'll watch Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for being patrons. Or if you're not a patron, thanks for being like 6 months behind. And
it's now
not being a
12
patron.
months since Jurassic World Dominion came out.
Wow.
Dinosaurs now rule the world.
And you're not prepared because you haven't heard us talk about it.
We'll give you all the hot tips next time.
We told you that they're susceptible to COVID, but you don't know that yet.
Yeah, so what? Get used rat tests and throw them at the dinosaurs to defend yourself. I guess that's how War of the Worlds worked. That kind of makes sense.
So before we go, I did have another quick high ground related thingy to plug, which is I have been watching the what's it called?
I have no idea what
National
you're
Treasure. The National Treasure TV show.
Yeah.
So for those who somehow missed it, they started doing a National Treasure TV show.
World's biggest news story. Everyone, of course, knows about it.
I'm genuinely floored by this show because, like, I think if anything, this podcast has proven how much leeway I am willing to give stuff in this genre of like treasure-seeking adventure. And even I cannot find anything to like in National Treasure: Edge of History. It is truly one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I
watched a little bit of it. It's pretty fucking bad.
I'm enjoying it in the same way I enjoy a Neil Breen or Tommy Wiseau thing. Like it's what gets me is the show hates puzzles. Like the show absolutely loathes or clearly fundamentally does not understand puzzles. Like you know those moments in National Treasure where like what was his name? Ben Franklin or whatever. Ben Gates.
Benjamin Franklin. Yeah.
Ben Franklin Gates. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Franklin Gates.
You know how
his stupid name.
You know how he'd explain the logic puzzle, and it would like it just kind of made sense. Or it was like, oh, and then they put the dollar coin here, and you fold it this way, and because of the all-seeing eye from the Illuminati, and that combines with the red light from the glasses, and like it's obviously nonsense, but like it makes sense.
Yeah, it was more like it would be like they reverse engineered it, and it would be almost impossible for him to actually solve this clue.
Yeah,
but what they had created made some kind of sense.
Yeah, and there was all this imagery, and it was sort of like, oh, this is a puzzle that like you can see why he's able to solve it. And that's just fundamentally missing from this TV show in the funniest way. Like there's this bit where she has to open a puzzle box and she's just like, oh, what if I make up a story? And so she makes up a story with these glyphs. And these are just like random symbols. And she's like, and then the rabbit goes onto the prairie. I wish I could link it to you. It's absolutely, but she just makes up a story that comes from nowhere, but that opens the puzzle box.
And then the person next to her goes, oh my God, you're a genius.
Yeah. But that's not a story that she's pulled from anywhere. It's just a story she's decided to make up. And she almost says like, oh, I like rabbits. So that's why she picks the one that looks like a rabbit. Like, and
this might go totally over you guys' heads, but what it reminds me of is like Lyra reading the alethiometer in the thing. But that is supposed to be like a special gift that she has. Yeah. It's not like solving a puzzle, but that's what they make it out like. And it's like, this is not what a puzzle is.
What it gave me the vibe of, and I was talking to to Hamwise about this while watching it almost made me think that the person who wrote this watched National Treasure and didn't understand it and thought that he was just making up stories to solve the thing.
They're like, they don't know they've never heard of the Illuminati.
Yeah,
They don't know any American history, even less than me.
Because all the puzzles she solved in this, it's just been her kind of making stuff up, and it's not based in like trivia or history or any like. It's not based on facts. It's just her making up stories, and that solves the puzzle. And it's just it just makes you think that the person who wrote this just didn't get National Treasure on like not just on a like sort of what made it good, but also just what made it coherent. Anyway, so I cannot recommend this show any less. Or truly awful, and like just the worst kind of like trying to be cool and progressive sort of writing, like a character who comes in and just like gives a big speech about why she's feminist, and it just is really cringy or whatever, and like
and there's like this. So I didn't watch very much, and I slept for bits, but like there's this pseudo love interest, but then it's really unclear whether they just kind of, you honestly can't tell whether they're friends or supposed to be romantically involved, because they're so bad at characterization that I can't even tell what the relationship between these two people is supposed to be, which is really weird.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what they're trying to do with that. It has been confusing. Anyway, yeah. So, speaking as somebody who will give any treasure hunting adventure thing a lot of chances, this has nothing. Edge of History might be. I can't believe how bad it is. I didn't think you could fuck up the premise of the Mummy and National Treasure, but I've been proven wrong.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, glad we now know where your limits are, I suppose.
Yeah, I finally found the line.
Well, I guess that's the end of our show, folks. Welcome to Jurassic World, as we always say. But thanks for joining us.
Yeah, should we do our outro together?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Bye, hoy, listeners, and get out of our swamp.
And also, no harm ever came from reading a book.
That's so true.
You did not say that once, Big Reuben.
Didn't. No harm ever came from reading a book. I've heard that.
You can just edit that in, Elliot.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Just stop that.
No.